Hey guys, it's Mo and welcome to my version of the tag of the mid-year book freakout tag. I can't even believe that it's already halfway through 2020 as far as reading goes, and I've been looking forward to doing this tag, but I wanted to wait until it was like officially the actually 6 months have passed in the year. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the tag today. There's a lot of questions just based off of the books that I've read so far this year. I've read a lot of books so far this year, so I do have a lot of books to choose from so far. I believe if my Goodreads will load, I think I've read 104 books so far this year. Yeah, so 104 books. Right now I'm 28 books ahead of my Goodreads goal, which was 150, but unofficially my goal is 200, so I'm on track to hit that. We'll see what happens in the last half of the year, but let's go ahead and get into the questions. So the first one is the best book that you've read so far in 2020. So for some of these questions, I'm going to be actually giving you guys a couple of different answers for them because some of them it was hard to choose just one book. So for my best book of the year so far, I'm between two books, and the first one is young adult. It's What Mama Left Me by Renee Watson. This one is a hard-hitting contemporary young adult novel. The other one is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. This one is an adult dystopian book, and this is not my first time. This isn't my first time actually reading either of these authors. This was both my second book actually of reading of this author. I had read Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson before, and I had read Kindred by Octavia Butler before. I already loved Kindred, and I knew I was going to probably love this book too. But with What Mama Left Me, I wasn't as sure because I remember I liked Piecing Me Together, but it wasn't like one of my favorite, most memorable books of all time. So yeah, these two so far are my favorites for this year, and I would definitely recommend them. The second question is, what is the best sequel so far that you've read in 2020? And for this one, I also have two answers as well. The first one, I feel like it's kind of a cop-out because it's a sequel that I reread and I already knew I was gonna like it when I went into it. So it's not like the first time I've read it is in 2020, and that is Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. I love the Hunger Games series, and I reread the whole series in anticipation of the prequel, which I'm currently reading right now. This one I feel like is a little bit of a cheat because I already knew that I love this one, so I chose another one as well, and this one is called Parable of the Talents by Octavia E. Butler, and this is her sequel slash follow-up to Parable of the Sower. These are both of the covers together. I think they look really cute together. So this one is a duology, so it's a sequel but also the final one in the series. I wish there was more because I just love Octavia E. Butler's writing. I can't really tell you too much about this sequel because it's a sequel, but if like I said about Parable of the Sower, it's an adult dystopian book, and I like this one, and I just don't want to give away anything. Question number 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet but you want to, and I can list so many books that I could answer this question with. Basically, if you guys go back and watch my most anticipated video for each month that I put out, most of the ones on there I have not read. But I will say there is one that for sure stands out to me, and that is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, I believe her name is. Let me just double check. Yeah, I was right. The author is Britt Bennett. She also wrote, the other book I read from her was The Mothers, and I've just been seeing this book everywhere, and I've heard nothing but good things about this book, and I'm on hold for it currently at the library for the ebook and the audiobook, so we'll see which one comes through first. I haven't actually bought a physical copy because I haven't been able to easily find one. It seems like everybody's trying to read it, and I haven't been able to decide which cover I want to buy, so I've kind of just been holding out. So maybe I'll just read it from my library and then I'll worry about buying it some other time once I decide if I like it enough that I want to own it. And I didn't say anything about what this book is about. I'm not sure if you're supposed to when you mention it, but I know we're following two sisters, and I believe they are biracial. I'm not for sure, but I know that one does pass as white, so I'm assuming they're biracial. But yeah, I just heard, like I said, nothing but good things about this book, so I just need to know what all of the hype is about. Number 5 is your biggest disappointment. So for this one, I actually have 3 books that I'm going to show you guys. Okay, the first one I feel bad is because it's an ARC that was sent to me, but I just, oh my gosh, I just hated it so much. And I hardly ever say that about books, but these 3 books, they just really were disappointing. I think because I had hyped them up so much in my mind that I was gonna love them, and that didn't end up happening, so very disappointing. So the first one is That Hair by Jamelia Pereira de Almeida, and this is translated by Eric M.B. Becker. This book is, it just ended up reading as a stream of conscious, and it's one of those books where I finished and I didn't know what the heck I had just read. I couldn't tell you what happened in this book. The same goes for a book I talked about in my wrap-up last month, and that was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. And the more I think about this book, the more I just do not like it, and I don't get it. And I just, the same thing as I said with That Hair, I finished the book and I couldn't tell you what it's about. I couldn't tell you what the point of the book was. I mean, both of them you can tell that the authors know how to write, but it's just the story itself I was just so left feeling so confused. And then the last one that I wanted to mention for disappointment is mainly a disappointment because it wasn't a bad book. I think I gave it 3. The other 2 books I mentioned I gave 2 stars. I like never give 1 star. I don't know why, even though I should. But this one I gave 3 stars, and it's still a disappointment because I just think this is probably the most beautiful book that I own, and because of that I put it to a higher standard, and when it didn't live up to that, it was very disappointing. So the book I'm going to tell you guys about is The Binding by Bridget Collins. This book is so beautiful. So this is the dust jacket here, and then it gets even better underneath the cover. This is the Waterstones exclusive edition, so it has purple sprayed edges and this really beautiful black and gold foiling all around, and I just think this is so beautiful, but I just was not into the story. And I think that, again, this author can write really well. At least with this story, I knew what was going on. I was just kind of like a little bit bored at parts, and it just wasn't what I expected going into it. For how beautiful of a book this is, I honestly expected it to be a 5-star rating for me, and the fact that it was not even close to that is what really disappointed me. Number 6 is your biggest surprise. So for this one, I have a book that I was this close to unhauling because it's just been sitting on my shelves for forever, and lately when it comes to mystery thriller books, I'm just like kind of over them because it's really hard to find ones that are just really well done. I feel like I've read so many that now I read them, nothing like surprises me anymore as when I first started reading them. But this one that I read was Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris, and I'm really glad I didn't get rid of it because I really enjoyed my time reading this book. But I feel like it's one of those things where if I were to read it again, I wouldn't feel the same because I know everything that happened. But yeah, this one definitely surprised me. It had me feeling like anxious while I was reading. I actually listened to this one on the audiobook, so I don't know if that affected my enjoyment of it or not, but just definitely a feeling of anxiety, and I kind of like that feeling when I'm reading this genre of book. We're following this couple and they look perfect. The premise for it also kind of just sounds kind of generic and bland, to be honest. If you're just reading the back of the book, it sounds like a typical domestic thriller, but this one just was really, I don't know if it was so well written or just fresh. I don't know, I just really enjoyed it, and I think they're making it into a movie, and I will definitely be there watching it. Number 7 is a favorite new author. You can be their debut or someone who's new to you. For that, I'm going with an author who I read 2 of their books so far this year, and I really enjoyed them. I can't remember the rating now I gave them. I think I gave these either 4 or 5 stars. And the 2 are Starfish and Harley in the Sky by Akemi Dawn Bowman. I really enjoyed these books. They're both young adult contemporary books, but I say they lean towards the more hard-hitting side than just like these light, fluffy young adult books. And each of them, they feature the main character. She's going through some type of struggle with the family and having to, I don't know, kind of just like branch out and grow up. One of the things I liked about these books were just the writing was really well done. Specifically in Harley in the Sky, the main character, she's into aerial arts, which was something that was really cool to read about. And this one, in Starfish, the main character, she's interested in going to an art school, so I feel like I could just really relate to both of the characters in there as far as their interests go. I don't remember if the character in Harley in the Sky was biracial now, but I know that the one in Starfish was, and that was also something that I really enjoyed and felt like I could relate to. I feel like the writing was just really well done. I really enjoyed the story, and something that both of these do is we're following, it's a young adult book, but I like young adult books best when we're following them kind of like right when they're out of high school, when I don't as much anymore enjoy books where the majority of the book takes place while they're in high school, but kind of like following them adjusting to the change of being out of high school and then going on to college or figuring out what they're going to do with their lives. I just find that a little bit more interesting to read about, and so she did that in both of these books, so I would definitely recommend this author to you guys. Number 8 is newest fictional crush. Now, to be honest, when I'm reading books, it's not something I really pay attention to, or is it super memorable to me, like the love interests in the books, but I will say that in both of these books there are love interests, and I did like both of the main interests in this one. If I had to mention another one, like something of a book I haven't mentioned already, I would say, what's his name in this book? Kolya in City of Thieves by David Benioff. I don't even know if he's really like described or not, but it's one of the main characters, but not the one that we're reading from the perspective of. I remember feeling like if this were to be a movie, like they would definitely cast a very hot actor for his character, and I just feel like his personality, and obviously like in the book he's like a super womanizer, but I don't know, there's something about his personality I just kind of liked, even though I'm sure he's not the greatest person ever. But this kind of ties into the next question, which is your newest favorite character, and I really liked both of the main characters in this book. Lev and Kolya are the main characters. This takes place in Leningrad when the Nazis are seizing there, and I think I mentioned this book earlier, but in a wrap-up from this year, obviously, but I really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it like 4 stars, but it's something I could see myself reading again in the future, and yeah, so I would recommend this book to you guys. Number 10 is a book that made you cry. So that is very rare for me to cry in a book. Not rare at all for me to cry when I'm watching like a movie or a TV show, but when it comes to books, I feel like I'm just like heartless, and I don't really have a lot of strong emotions when I'm reading. At least lately, I haven't read anything like that, but this year there was one book that I did tear up a little bit in when I was reading, and that one is Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. In this one we're following Bryan as he's trying to help these cases to help people who are wrongfully imprisoned and to be able to get their freedom back. It's definitely very hard-hitting nonfiction, and I definitely teared up when I read this, and as you can imagine, I was just a mess the whole time I watched the movie for this. Number 11 is a book that made you happy. For me, I don't read a lot of books that are like happy, feel-good, fluffy books. I don't read a lot of like romance. I feel like that category usually is kind of in there. I feel like I lean towards books where there's a lot of conflict and sadness going on in them, but every once in a while I do read something that is kind of a little bit more lighthearted, and for this one I went with The Book Wanderers by Anna James. This is a middle grade fantasy series. I think the second one's coming out sometime later this year, and this book is just like kind of cozy and fun and whimsical and definitely like nostalgic. There's references to Anne from Anne of Green Gables, which is my favorite book of all time, as well as there's mentions of like Alice in Wonderland and just other well-known classic books in here, and we're following kids who are middle grade age, so it's just very lighthearted, even though they do have like conflict and plot stuff going on. It's still a book that left me feeling really happy. Number 12 is the most beautiful book that you've bought this year so far, and that is so hard for me. It's like asking me to choose a favorite kid if I were to have kids, because you guys know I am a sucker for beautiful books. If you watch any of my book hauls, like I call them beautiful book hauls because all the books that I buy I feel like are beautiful, and that's just like what I'm attracted to when I'm buying books. It's a factor for me. It may be shallow, but it's what I like. So for this one it was really, really hard, you guys. So Go back and watch those videos if you want to see more beautiful books, but I'm going to just show you guys two. I limited myself to just two for this video. So the first one is more of an honorable mention. I haven't even shown you guys this one yet because I need to record a book haul video. I just haven't had time yet. So it's The Dutch House by Anne Patchett, which I think is a nice cover, but it's like not the best cover ever. But I love when books do sprayed edges, and sprayed edges on this one are just so pretty. So I wanted to mention this one. The other one is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. The cover, although it's really reflective, I don't know how, okay, it's like this, and this is the spine. It's so pretty. It has silver foiled edges, and these are the end papers. Oh, it's just so beautiful. This is the Barnes & Noble Collector's Edition, and here's the back. It's just so beautiful. And then last but not least, the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? A lot. Very much a lot. I have like almost 300 books right now that I have owned but I have not read. And I'm trying to get to at least another 100 of them by the end of the year. I'm going to show you guys 5 books specifically. I limited myself to 5. The first one is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winters. I've just been really in the mood for a very world-building fantasy book lately, so I'm hoping that this will fulfill that, even though I don't have plans to pick this one up actually for a few months, but I definitely want to read it by the end of the year. The next one is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I've heard a lot of good things about this book. I don't really know too much about it. I just know it's a book about books, and I tend to like books like that. The next one is The Idiot by Elif Batuman. This one, I just really like the cover on this one. I don't remember what this one is about, but I think I had heard somebody, at least one or two other people, mention that they liked this, and it's been sitting on my shelves behind me for a long time, so I need to get to that. And then we have a Folio Society book. This one is science fiction. It's called Ubik by Philip K. Dick. This is the slipcase it comes in. This is the book itself. It's just really cool. I read one other book by him so far this year, and I want to read more of his work and more science fiction in general. And then continuing kind of with the science fiction theme, I want to pick up Dune by Frank Herbert. I need to get to this before the movie comes out for sure. And it's been on my TBR so many times, I just have not gotten to it yet. And then also I wanted to mention I want to read more classics because I feel like that's something I haven't really read too much of lately. I definitely want to finish up. I have a few of my Penguin Clothbound classics I haven't gotten to yet. Specifically, like at least Count of Monte Cristo and Les Miserables, and oh, there's one other one. Oh yeah, Middlemarch by George Eliot. I also want to get to that one. But they can be more intimidating because they're so big. These books are like 1,000 pages. Okay, so question number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and for that I have 2 answers for that one. The first one is a mystery, and that is One by One by Ruth Ware. I've read her other books and I've enjoyed them, I think, as far as I can remember, and I have this one on pre-order. I pre-ordered the Waterstones edition, so that should be here whenever it comes out. And then the other book that I'm most looking forward to is Transcendent Kingdom by Yaa Gyasi. This one has a beautiful cover, and I really enjoyed Homegoing. I think that one came out like a couple years ago, so I'm looking forward to reading another book by this author. So those are all of the questions for the mid-year book freakout tag. I am really looking forward to seeing what the next half of the year brings as far as reading goes. I'm definitely hoping to read as much as I can. I'm not in a reading slump right now, so I definitely am in the mood to read, so that is a good thing for the second half of the year. That's it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!